Welcome to my pocket-sized lessons. Today I want to talk about the Solgaleo EX deck, featuring Skarmory obviously, which you probably have seen a lot on the ladder. So what is this deck? It's a turbo deck, meaning it's gonna play very aggressively. It will want to do damage as soon as possible. Usually you start with Skarmory in the active, and if you go second you can even attack on turn 1 with Skarmory for 50 damage, and then you charge Solgaleo for 120 damage. Or, depending on the situation, you might just put Skarmory in the active spot just to absorb some damage while you keep Cosmog in the bench, and you charge up Cosmog so that on turn 2, if you do have rare candy, you can use the ability of Solgaleo to just switch it in the active, because Solgaleo has an ability which allows you to put it in the active spot if it is on the bench. It's also the reason why you don't run Leaf 4 energy jets, because you have Solgaleo's ability. And do 120 damage on turn 2. Which Pokemon it wants to attack with may change depending on the game state and the matchup, but it's a fairly easy deck to understand, and definitely recommended for beginners if you have the right cards. So as I said before, the strategy is very adaptable because you have two different attackers that give out different amount of points when knocked out, and they're both really easy to charge up. They require a low amount of energies. If the opponent has a recovery, for instance, you might just go with Skarmory. Or like if you want to charge a Solgaleo but you want to shield it from big damage, you can put Skarmory in the front instead. You can force your opponent to go through both Skarmorys before Solgaleos, so that you can force your opponent to do a non-optimal press mapping. By the way, if you don't know what press mapping is, I made a whole video about it. And yeah, Solgaleo can become tanky with Cape. Because, I mean, it does damage to itself by attacking, but it's 10 damage. It's very negligible most of the times. And, like, it's gonna become a 200 health behemoth with a cape. Oh, and, you can give it the cape to Skarmory, like 100 HP for Skarmory is quite a lot. So the deck looks really strong, and yeah, it is strong, but it's not perfect. The most obviously strong matchups against this deck are the Incineroar Charizard decks, because Solgaleo can do a lot of damage early on, but 120 is not the highest damage output you could have in the game, and when you face 180 HP Pokemon, you're not gonna KO them in one turn. Even with Skarmory, like in 2 turns with Skarmory, it's 170, it's just short of a KO. And your opponent can just Giant Cape, can use Lily to just heal 60 from their Incineroar or Charizard. And in return, they're gonna almost one-shot you, basically. Because, I mean, they do 140, 150 damage, plus 20 weakness, because Solgaleo is fire weak. By that point, the 10 damage, like the recoil damage you do from attacking with Solgaleo, can become actually significant. Like, barely surviving an opponent attack means that if you attack with Solgaleo again, you might just knock yourself out. Another tough matchup can be your recovery decks. I mean, they're manageable because Skarmory has 80 HP. It is electric weak, and recovery is electric, so it's gonna receive 70 damage, but Skarmory has 80 health, so it can barely survive it. And it's not a red, so red won't be much of a help. If you play your Skarmory correctly, like if you don't waste them, if you make sure they stay alive when they need to, you can still manage the matchup. Though again, it's not an easy matchup for sure. Lastly, it's a stage 2 deck, which means it's gonna be weak to disruption. Like if you play Mars or Red Card, even though Red Card is less common, while you have Rare Candy and Solgaleo in your hand, and they play Mars, you might just reshuffle your hand, you might just lose them. And you're gonna be very behind and not recover. One advice I can give is, if you already have the necessary tools in hand, or you don't think you will need that different supporter in the turn afterwards, hold on to your Professor Research, because if you play Professor Research and they shuffle your hand, you're gonna have way less cards and one less research in your deck, which might help you a lot in coming out of these tough situations by redrawing it. So I mentioned Rare Candy, and yeah, unfortunately that's another thing that this deck has, which is what I like to call the Rare Candy Roulette. Basically, you can potentially get a stage 2 on turn 2, which is obviously great, but it's not gonna be the most consistent thing in the world. There are games where you will not get them, and that's something you have to accept. I mean, you have Skarmory on the active, so usually it's not the end of the world if you don't get a Solgaleo on turn 2, especially since, if you go second, on the first turn you attach an energy to Skarmory, you're not gonna attack with Solgaleo on turn 2 anyway, but sometimes it may happen that you either don't have Rare Candy or Solgaleo, and you will take you a long time which values you the game. Or sometimes you have both cards, but you don't have Cosmog. That's like another disadvantage because it's a rare candy deck after all. So overall, I've listed quite a few drawbacks of the deck, but you know, again, it's a fairly consistent deck. The game plan is very solid. The deck is, I mean, it's gonna have a linear game plan, but it's not completely one-dimensional, so a good player can make it work even in tougher situations. And while it's not the highest win rate in tournaments, it has fairly good results. And on ladder, it's definitely a good pick. It's definitely like a good choice, especially for if you want a simpler deck. So thanks a lot for watching, subscribe for more content, and I hope to see you again very soon.
Bye.